Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of me explaining all of the maps in Terraforming Mars. Today I will discuss all of the ins and outs of one of the four maps that released at the same time but separately to Prelude 2, Vastitas Borealis. We will go through this in four sections. First, I will explain the general layout of the map and its implications on the ground game. Then I will go over the milestones and awards. And lastly, I will combine all of this information and talk about the best corps on this map. So let's hop right in. Vastitas Borealis holds only slightly fewer plans compared to Tharsis, which, as we know, is the king of the ground game maps. Picking up plans via placement bonuses when placing tiles is essential for a good ground game, so a map having a lot of these is a good indicator that ground game is strong on it. However, on Vastitas Borealis the plans are distributed in an interesting way. You get fewer on land and more on oceans compared to Tharsis. 22 on land versus 27, and 14 on oceans versus 11. In general, the oceans are quite strong, with only one holding no placement bonus, but with a chance of yielding a 4MC rebate instead, and 9 out of 12 yielding at least 2 resources. And since 10 out of 12 spots either offer plans or heat, placing oceans is especially great for rushing on this map. On the flip side, Mining Guild suffers as there are no mineral ocean spots, and all other engine corps certainly do not like the fact that there is no 2-card bonus. There are however plenty of opportunities to pick up steel, titanium and cards on land tiles. It is especially interesting that there are 2 spots offering 2 cards, and that you can draw a total of 9 cards through placing tiles, more than on any other map we've discussed so far. Only Elysium comes close with 8 cards, but that map also has its infamous 3-card spot, pushing the total up. So, to summarize, ocean tiles on Vastitas Borealis are great for rushing, but the land tiles still offer enough non-planned placement bonuses such that engine corps find something to look forward to. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the 3 elephants. There are 3 quite interesting tiles on this map. 2 offering delegates and 1 offering a temperature bump for a significantly discounted price. Let's talk about the latter first. Similar to the ocean placement bonus on Hellas, you can pick up a temperature bump for 4 MC. A temperature bump is normally worth around 11 MC. Just take Asteroid's price of 14 plus 3 minus 6. So the 4 MC you pay on this map is ridiculously cheap. In theory, you can even combine this with a 2 to 6 MC ocean rebate, but you'd need to get really lucky to claim this tile first and already be able to collect that rebate. Also, while on Hellas, placing a tile on the South Pole leaves you stuck in quite an undesirable part of the map for greenery conversions, the middle of the map on Vastitas Borealis is actually quite nice, with quite a few plant placement bonuses around and ocean walk potential as well. And lastly, while on Hellas you can quite regularly pick up MC with the ocean first to then pay the price of it, this only works on Vastitas Borealis if you get the bonus ocean on the temperature track. Note, this does not work in the Steam app, but this expansion map is not available on there anyways at the moment. Next up, the 2 delegates. These obviously only work with the Turmoil expansion and are completely obsolete otherwise. If you can make use of them, however, they can be an extremely useful tool as delegates usually cost 5 MC to place, apart from the one you get for free each gen. So if you plan to do more with your delegates than farming 1 influence per gen, but just placing 1 in the dominant party, getting 1 basically for free is quite nice, and can effectively save you 5 MC, comparable to placement bonuses that grant 2 steel or 2 titanium. What these placement bonuses do not allow you to do is unexpectedly flip an election, because you don't get delegates faster than expected, and since placing tiles is either expensive or telegraphed by your plan count, you should not be able to surprise a good opponent with a move like this. Next up, let's go through the 5 milestones on Vastitas Borealis. Agronomist, Spacefarer, Geologist, Engineer and Farmer. In my opinion, these milestones are once again a little more centered around a rush playstyle, which is a nice change of pace from Hellas, which we discussed last. Something else that immediately stands out is that some of the milestones are weirdly balanced, both in comparison to milestones on other maps and between each other. Agronomist and Engineer both are quite similar to existing milestones on other maps, and most of the time harder to achieve. Agronomist is quite clearly significantly more difficult to reach than ecologist, as it requires the same amount of tags but only includes plant tags. And then engineer requires you to increase your power and/or heat prod to 10. Compare this to specialist or energizer, the former of which allows you to use MC prod for the milestone, which is significantly cheaper to accumulate than power or heat prod, and the latter of which requires way less production. Sure, both milestones restrict you to increasing one specific production to achieve them, but I still think they're easier to reach. And then there are Spacefarer and Farmer, the former being too easy and the latter too difficult to reach in my opinion. But let's talk through the milestones one by one. Agronomist is, as I said, a more difficult version of ecologist. Corps like Ecoline and Aphrodite have a good shot at it due to starting with an extra plant tag, but also corps with a wild tag like Septum Tribus obviously thrive at it. Maybe an unexpected overperformer on Agronomist is Inventrix. Plant tags often come with high global requirements, and Inventrix can allow you to play them much earlier. But even with these corps, you might have to rely on plant and wild tags on preludes and might have to resort to playing really inefficient early game plant tags to secure this milestone. Spacefarer is a strange one. On some versions of Vastitas Borealis you find online, it requires 5 space tags, but on the official version only 4. In my view, that's far too easy to achieve. The requirement is similar to Agronomist, but when playing with all expansions, there are more than twice as many non-event space tags as plant tags. Plant tags also tend to have high global requirements, as discussed earlier, while space tags are generally playable right away. Yes, many space tags are expensive late-game cards, but at least they can be played theoretically. All this means is that, especially with all expansions, Spacefarer ends up being one of the easiest milestones to achieve in my opinion. Phobolock and especially Culpa Cooperative are obviously both perfect for this milestone, but all corps with a space tag or wild tag are good at it, as one tag is already 25% of what you need. Geologist is one of the easiest to reach ground game milestones. It requires 3 tiles on or around volcanic areas. If you have some cheap early game tile placement cards like Natural Preserve or Restricted Area, and are some early plant prod, then this milestone can be quite trivial. If you have neither, you would have to rely on expensive standard projects, which is something that can only realistically be pulled off by Tharsis or Credit Core, and whether that is worth it is unclear. In general, Ecoline, Phalaris and Tharsis have an edge on this milestone. Engineer is quite straightforward, as it just requires 10 heat and power prod combined. Accumulating a lot of heat prod is usually easier and cheaper than accumulating a lot of power prod, except if you're going for a science strat and can rely on quantum, mass or corona extractor. In any case, you can always combine both production types, so cards like Beam from a Thorium Asteroid or Lunar Beam can be powerful tools to secure this milestone. Corps like Thorgate and Helion are quite strong on this one. Lastly, Farmer, requiring 5 animal or microbe resources. This milestone is often just incredibly difficult to achieve. The reason is similar to the problem we have with Agronomist. Microbe and animal cards, which can collect the resources needed for this milestone, often have incredibly high global requirements. And once you can play them, these cards often allow you to only put 1 resource on them per gen, stalling out the time before you reach the required 5 resources even longer. Corps that can help you get to Farmer are Inventrix, since they can play some of these resource collecting cards earlier, Ecotech, due to their viral enhancers-like ability, Byron, who can at least speed up the resource gathering part, and Arclight for obvious reasons. Let's discuss the awards on Vastitas Borealis. Traveler, Landscaper, Highlander, Promoter, Blacksmith. Similar to Elysium, there are 2 awards directly related to the ground game, but in contrast to that map, you can work on both awards at the same time. With Traveler and Blacksmith, we have 2 of the most engine-specific awards in the game, while Promoter can work for rush players who want to play space events to finish the game fast. Let's go through the awards one by one. As I just mentioned, Traveler is a true engine award, being won by the player with the most Earth and Jovian tags combined. Sure, especially Earth tags are something rush players also want to get down, but not only do you play less cards in general in Rush, the Earth tags you want to play are often event cards that do not count for the award. And then there are the Jovians that truly only engine players want to get down. In addition to being an award that favors engine, Traveler is also one that in my opinion is not that easily flipped. Sure, there are quite a few Earth and Jovian tags, but in contrast to how you can play building and space tags with excess steel and titanium to flip Contractor and Space Baron, you cannot do the same with all of the Earth and Jovian tags. Cards to keep in mind for this award are Earth Office and Lunar Governor. And when it comes to Coprs, obviously Terraforming, Point Lunar and Saturn systems have an edge on this award. Landscaper is similar to Landlord. If you're going for a ground game with lots of plant prod, you're likely to win this award. Just keep in mind that if you're making use of ocean walks and great placement bonuses all over the map, connecting your tiles into a large cluster can become quite difficult, and you can get cut off at the bottlenecks between the oceans or at the edge of the map. Ground game corps like Ecoline, Tharsis and Phalaris are best for this award. Highlander is quite similar to Desert Settler, requiring a large quantity of tiles in an undesirable place of the map. In this case, away from the oceans. I said earlier that trying to win this award doesn't quite literally go against what you need to do to win Landscaper, but often it can mean that. If you place a new tile, you will often have to face the decision whether to place it to enhance your position on Landscaper or Highlander. But again, ground game corps like Tharsis, Ecoline and Phalaris are best for this award. Promoter is the only award on this map which could be considered a true rush award. Sure, rush players also like to place greeneries and can therefore also try to fund Landscaper, but engine players can often swing ground game awards before game end. Playing a lot of events to win Promoter is something which seems more realistic for rush players, since they like to get down a few events to push the temperature and ocean tracks. However, if you want to fund this award, beware of all of the cheap events out there that could be used to swing it last gen. Stuff like investment loan, land claim and tech demo. It's hard to say which corps are best for Promoter, but IC obviously gets at least a little bit of help getting a lot of events down. And then lastly, Blacksmith, another clear engine award. It's really similar to Miner, as you want a lot of mineral prod to win it. However, a lot of people say that winning Miner means losing the game, since it often requires you to leave a ton of resources unspent. This is not the case with Blacksmith. You can use all of your minerals in the last gen to play point cards and still win the award, since it counts production. Whether or not you will be able to do that, meaning whether or not you will find enough building and space tags to actually spend all of your minerals, is a different story. You might still overinvest into mineral prod on your quest to win Blacksmith, something you definitely want to avoid. Mining Guild is easily the best corp for this award. But overall, what corps profit most from all of this? We learned that quite a few milestones favor rush and or the ground game, while the awards favor engine and ground game. Also, the ocean tiles are great, but mostly if you want to rush and ocean walk. In addition, there are a few great spots on the map where you want to get tiles down quickly to grab great placement bonuses like the temperature bump or the card spots. For me, a few corps stand out. Firstly, corps that allow you to place a tile immediately, namely Tharsis and Phalaris. Both of these excel at Geologist and in a way at Agronomist, as they want to play plant tags to enhance their ground game. Also, they can pick up whichever placement bonus they want immediately, most often the temperature bump. And lastly, they both have a great shot at Landscaper and Highlander. In a similar way, Ecoline profits from the great ground game and ocean walk potential on this map, and even though it loves rushing, it also has a great shot on both ground game awards. However, since I mostly play Vastitas Borealis with all expansions, Ecoline often feels a bit underwhelming, as it gets much worse with colonies and turmoil, specifically due to deck dilution and increasing focus on engine play with both expansions. And lastly, I really like lakefront resorts on this map. I haven't talked about this corp at all today, as it doesn't stand out on any milestone or award specifically, but the strength of the oceans and the great ocean walk potential on this map really helps lakefront excel. Again, these corps are not necessarily the best corps on Vastitas Borealis, but maybe the most improved. Definitely let me know in the comments which corps you like most to play on this map. But that's it, my 2 cents on the map Vastitas Borealis. Have you already played with this fan-made map made official, and if so, how do you like it? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And also, if you want to watch me play Terraforming Mars live, please check out my Twitch, which is linked in the description. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video.